Okay, let me check if everything works on external platforms. And just a second. So the delay is pretty huge, but yeah, it works. Cool. So thank you very much all for joining us. It's great to see, great to be with you. And today we are going to talk about automating the IT recruitment in general. So for all of you who are not using IT recruitment process automation, the good news are that we are going to provide you a few low-hanging fruits and a few tips about how to integrate or implement, adopt recruitment into your company, into your processes, like smoothly, without any giant revolution. So I'm Jacob, here is Tomasz, and let's start. So at the very beginning, I would like to mention why we decided to even talk about this topic or this subject. So basically, hiring developers is a pretty hard task. It's hard for at least two reasons. First is that due to our research at Developersker, the cost of wrong decision in IT recruitment process is huge. So due to productivity loss, onboarding, cost of hiring, compensation, etc., the bad decision costs you even $90,000. So it's a lot of money, and all the organizational costs. So adding new people to the team, losing productivity because you need to onboard them, you need to teach them how to work effectively, you need to teach them your software. It's a giant problem. And also, there is a shortage of good candidates, of good developers on the market. And even due to that, or maybe mostly due to that, the average time to hire for a software engineer, according to DICE or Burning Glass Technologies, is 43 days. So it's a lot. And to be honest, what we hear from our customers or from the companies that we are talking to, they are saying often that I would love to have 43 days. For us, it's much longer. So now we would like to talk to you and show you how you can make your process more efficient. So you will make better decisions and you will be able to hire developers faster.
All right, so enough of statistics. Let's just briefly describe what we're gonna cover today. So first of all, we would like to explain how you can reach a larger number of candidates without really investing more in your recruitment process. So investing more in HR department, investing more in some expensive tools, and so on and so forth. Also, because you have a larger pool of candidates, you are preventing many of them from falling out simply because you had to reject half of the candidates at the very beginning because you didn't have a capacity to handle all of them. So we would like to have as many candidates in the beginning as possible and then be able to quickly discard the ones that do not fit into our company. Now, we would also like to briefly touch on automatic coding tests that you can use. By automatic, we mean that you're giving a short and sweet programming assignment to a candidate or some hands-on programming assignment that can be assessed automatically so that you don't have to spend your engineer's time doing some reviews at the very beginning of the process. Also, we would like to have the screening process and the screening decisions much faster with a little bit of benchmarking. So we'll show you how to make the screening process faster by looking at some metrics and how you can decide which metrics to use and how you can optimize the very beginning of the process, because it turns out that the time to conduct the full interview and the whole recruitment process is really essential. One last thing, or actually one but last thing. So you would like to have the candidates coming to you rather than sourcing candidates yourself, because that greatly improves the number of candidates that can come into your that can come into your recruitment process versus looking at them explicitly on the market. So self-service testing that people can join directly from your careers page or recruiters page or open job positions page, whatever it means, whatever it says on your side. Basically, the candidates are going straight to your recruiting funnels. And also, we'll briefly touch upon things how you can integrate your existing tool stack. So every tool that you use at your daily job, whatever sophisticated or very simple it is, how you can use these tools that you already have to take to your advantage. So I'm Tomic. I'm a CTO at Devskiller. I'm working with Jakub directly, and I have quite a lot of professional experience as a software developer. I am mainly a Java developer, and I still practice Java development, and I also still practice recruiting, and I also still look for developers, even though I'm currently in the CTO position at Devskiller. I wrote a book about RxJava, which is or at least used to be a really popular framework for Java. I'm a frequent conference speaker, trainer, and I also was I used to be very, very active on Stack Overflow, so a website that you as a recruiter and you as a developer, whoever listens to us, is probably very, very familiar with. So that's me. And what about Jakub?
Yeah, so I'm a founder of Devskiller. I founded this project or platform 8 years ago. I'm now also a CEO of this company. I started coding when I was pretty young, so it was in '86, and since for the last 16 years or 17 years, I'm doing it professionally. During my career, I was working as a development manager, as a team leader, head of software development, and I conducted over 1,000 interviews with software engineers. So I know this pain. And on this pain and on frustration related to this pain, Devskiller was born. And I also share my knowledge on trainings during consulting and also like speaking at the conferences. And what I think the more really important is that everything that we've learned about hiring developers, we learned the hard way. So basically, we were spending the time sitting with developers and like thinking about how to improve this process, how to make it better, easier, and more efficient. And like during this time, we did a couple of things terribly well. A lot of them we did just terribly. But we are also like basing on experiences with our customers. So Devskiller right now has over like 400 customers all over the world. And we are talking to this customer, we are like talking with them about their pains, about their needs, about their tips or tricks that they can learn. So like things that worked for them, things are not working for them. And like based on this experience, we outlined this webinar today, and that's what we want to share with you as well. And when you take a look at the let's say ancient recruitment process in IT, so how our parents was recruiting developers, and now how unfortunately a lot of companies are doing it still right now. It's like most of the recruitment processes that I've seen, especially a few years ago, was like based on resume-driven filtering. So the process is very simple. You get an application from a candidate that is based on the resume, the CV, and then based on that, you decide if the candidate is good or bad. And for all of you who are working with developers on a daily basis, you know that developers are not the best salespeople, or they don't have like pretty good marketing skills. So a lot of great developers I know, their CV was really, really poor, and like you won't probably even decide to call them just based on the CV. So like that's why resume-driven filtering is not so great. After like choosing these people, the candidates based on the resume, we were inviting them for the 60-minute on-site job interviews. And like after handling hundreds or I don't know, 40 of such interviews, we're choosing from this whole pool of the candidates, who are we going to hire? And often it happened like after handling all those interviews, a lot of especially the best candidates were saying, I'm not interested anymore, I already get a job, I choose to go to work for your competitors. And it's only because like your recruitment process is pretty long and it's waterfall style. So you're waiting until the end, and after like finishing all of the stages of on-site interviews, and then you are working with Candy, especially right now when we are living or we switched in the recent months to the online and remote work. Like this current process is not working, but that's what we focus. But also like the way how you handle the tasks is also a problem. What do you think about that, Tomic? Like what do you dislike in the normal like recruitment processes?
Yeah, so I dare to say that algorithms and data structures is actually an anti-pattern that I often see in the recruitment process. I'm pretty sure you've seen so many tasks like that. So like trying to do some algorithms on a whiteboard, that's the worst thing. So you get a marker and a whiteboard, and that the recruiter asks you to like fill in some algorithm that maybe is even important. Maybe you will use it one day at work, but you will probably never implement it from just straight up your head. You will look it up somewhere, and that's okay, because that's what we are taught, to look up materials somewhere rather than just figuring out how the actual data structure or algorithm look like without really like looking up any materials. So both algorithms, data structures, and coding on a whiteboard, these are the things that I would really consider almost an anti-pattern. And one more thing, what I really hate about the typical interview process is that you never get any response back from a recruiter. So even though you struggled so much, and even though you spend so much time trying to like fulfill all the assignments, homeworks, etc., you never really got back any callback from the recruiter. No one really gave you any feedback, and that's pretty terrible. And I really hate it, because I would love to know why I was rejected. If I was accepted, then that's okay. That's my feedback. But if I was rejected, then that's pretty bad. If I never get any callback.
Yeah, so basically, the question is, that doesn't sound familiar for you. So maybe you are recruited in such way, and maybe your company is still using this approach. So then you need to answer to yourself if it's cool, if it's great, and if that's the way how you are going, or how you would like to work. And if not, then like of course it's important to know why you should automate the recruitment process. And Tomek, can you like tell us a little bit about what are the benefits of automating the recruitment process?
Yeah, so just to give you a brief overview, what do we mean by automation? Basically, we are developers. So just like as developers, we learned that a waterfall process, what we already covered a few slides ago, the waterfall process doesn't work well in software development, and it doesn't work well in the recruitment process. And just like with waterfall, also the automation is extremely important when both in software development and in the recruiting. So what do we mean by automation? Basically everything that can be done by a machine rather than by a human person. Remember that people are very unique, and also people are very expensive, and their time is precious. So please make sure that if you're using a person, if you're using like a physical person like a recruiter or a technical person, make sure that they are using their unique skills to do things that cannot be done by a machine. So in the first step, remember that automation can help you. By automation, I mean any process or any feature that allows more candidates to get into your recruiting funnel. So the more candidates you can collect at the very beginning, the better, because you increase your chances of catching the best candidates on the market. If you are only capable of like collecting 100 candidates, then chances are you won't find the best match, because you simply don't have enough capacity to get whoever you find the most valuable. But if you can turn it into 200, 300, 400, then you get better chances of catching up the best of the kind. So the recruiter's job and the recruiter's biggest value here is actually adding a little bit of a let's call it a human touch. So interacting with a candidate, building a company's brand. These are the things where a recruiter works best. These are the unique skills of a recruiter, not going manually through CVs, not going back and forth with things like emails or some processes that can be done by a machine. The same applies to technical people. So technical interviewers like developers or whoever works in your IT department, their time is best spent when building, maintaining, or doing whatever with your production system. So building your competitive advantage. These people are hired so that you can have the best software that money can buy or that developers can implement. Do not waste technical interviewers' time doing tedious work that can be automated. Obviously, you will need a technical interviewer sooner or later. However, make sure that their time and their unique skills is used to pick the best candidates on the market rather than just doing tedious work that can easily be automated. So this applies both to recruiters and to technical people and in your organization. So what are the things that can be easily automated using a machine? So any process that's essentially not human. So technical screening, like sending quizzes, sending puzzles, at least hopefully not algorithmic puzzles, sending coding assignments and assessing coding assignments. These are the things that can be done by a machine. So automatic testing, automatic verification, all of this can simply be automated if you invest a little bit of time in doing so, and maybe in some products. So many other things like scheduling, screening, scheduling interviews, this can be automated with so many tools that allows you to arrange calendar meetings just directly without even your interaction. So this can be done without going back and forth with emails. So what else? So analyzing and benchmarking candidates. So a lot of metrics that you can apply to candidates' homeworks, candidates' assignments, and so on and so forth. All of these can simply be automated if you just invest a little bit of time, or maybe invest in some products that are capable of automatically assessing your candidate without even technical recruiter or HR person being involved at all. This means that you can easily take a lot of candidates from the market, but also very, very quickly reject the ones that you're not interested in. All right. Okay. So there are some questions on the chat. So there will be time after the webinar for the Q&A session, and then we would answer all the questions. But you can ask them all the time. So I'm seeing them. So thank you. Yeah. So in terms of why automating, we need to think about what's the ROI, because we don't want to invest our time and do something if we are not going to get anything in return. And so basically, when we talk to our customers, they're able to extremely improve the recruitment process. So cutting the number of interviews by almost 10 times. So it means 10 times less interviews. We're interviewing 10 candidates instead of 100. Or accelerating your time to hire by 60%, eliminating back and forth between HR and IT. So basically improving the cooperation between HR and IT. And these are the hard numbers that we observe, and our customers prove they are able to get and achieve due to using the automation. So the really important part is that you want to basically you cannot do automation as a big bang. So it's not possible to use a big bang. We know that a big bang is not working for software, but it's as well not working for the let's say process automation. So do you see, Tomic, any relation here to agile methodologies and some lean approach that we see that our customers are using in IT automation? Yeah, I see another metaphor or another parallel between software development and recruitment process here. So when I'm doing performance optimization or benchmarking of my code, of my application, there are quite a few rules that I can apply to make the software faster and make the software a little bit more performant. And actually, it turned out that you can apply the same rules to trying to optimize your recruitment process. So first of all, you should be doing it step by step. And by doing so, I mean, try to find one thing that you believe that bothers you the most, that you believe is the biggest bottleneck, and try to optimize that biggest bottleneck, because that's the essential role of performance tuning of an application. And turns out this also applies to your recruitment process. So find the thing that takes the most resources, the most time, the most money, the biggest number of people, the most amount of money, the biggest amount of people, so that you can optimize on top of that, rather than using really small, like diminishing results. So let's start from this one, and then you can go to reducing like smaller things in your process, basically what we call waste. So what do we mean by waste actually? So,
yeah, so basically like improving and like removing bottlenecks, focusing on low-hanging fruits is something that in a 80-20 rule we call the 80. So that's the 80%. Then we can focus also on reducing waste. So let's say that you have a recruitment funnel, and you have a problem that the candidates that you are interviewing are not like the process is too long to hire the best candidates that you are interviewing, and that's of course the problem. But the 20% in 80-20 rules means that there is a waste, and waste, for example, are the candidates that you are rejecting based on the resume that is poor, but in fact the candidates are pretty experienced and pretty good developers. So you don't want to reject anyone that is valuable from your recruitment funnel just because you can. And that's what we mean by reducing waste. So after you improve the process, after you know what's happening, and after you have like deep insights on your recruitment process, you can find some very like sophisticated parts and sophisticated methods to improve some things that are not like clear at the very beginning, and at the very beginning you can even not be aware of existence of such things. And what we realized during like years of working with IT recruitment process automation is that it's extremely similar to performance tuning, application tuning. There are like some systematic steps that you take when you want to optimize the performance of the software or performance of anything else. And you need to start with assessing the problem and like establishing some metrics that you can you want to improve or you want to collect. So there is some assumption, and you want to work on this assumption. And we'll talk about what can be such a metric or what can be such an assumption later. But let's say that we know that our recruitment process is too long. That's our like assumption. Our recruitment process is too long. So what does it mean that it's too long? We cannot focus on just saying, oh, it's so long that like I even don't forget, I even don't remember when I posted the job posting. You need to measure that. You need to measure the recruitment process length before you will decide to change it, because then you have a real number that will show you if you are going in the good or wrong direction. So we are measuring the recruitment process. Then we are identifying the bottlenecks or some issues that are making this process, in fact, longer. So focus on the bottlenecks. Then you modify your process by, for example, automating some parts of this one, by changing how you see the process, in fact. And after modification, you measure after that, in fact, it helped. Because it's really common case when you change something and you so strongly believe in your assumption that you're saying it's much better right now. It's much better after like, I don't know, turning on this cache or after like changing the process. It's so good right now. But when you take a look at the metrics, you see that nothing happened, or even you make this process even worse. So you went the wrong direction. But it's your baby, so you don't want to like, be take anything bad about your baby. So measuring is really important about that. And then if you measured before and measured after, then based on the difference between the measurement, you can adopt or reject this change. And what is important right now, and just piggybacking on what Tomic said about like doing it step by step, that's why doing it step by step and one thing at a time is important, because it's possible that if you are making 3 changes at the same time, one change will improve your process by 50%, but the 2 other changes will make it worse for 70%. And then when you take a look at it overall, you will say, okay, so my change I was wrong. I need to revert all the changes. But in fact, you should revert only 2, and one was improving your process significantly. So that's why you should like repeat those systematic tuning steps for every single change, step by step, improving your process. And often it happens that after 2 or 3 iterations, you say, okay, it's good enough. I don't want to like improve it because my process takes 7 days. I can spend now a lot of time by making it shorter to 6 days, but it's enough. Let's focus on something else. Let's focus on the candidate quality. So now the question is, Tomasz, if people are like starting the automation today, what they can do to be able to follow these steps that we know are crucial for performance tuning or for any kind of improving the efficiency?
Yeah, because all of what you said sounds really abstract. We like need all these steps, and I truly agree. But in order to actually physically deploy this plan or implement this plan in your organization, you need some tools. And with our experience and what we saw in many of our customers, we found out that the biggest issue and the biggest bottleneck you might have in your process is the lack of an ATS or applicant tracking system. So this is essentially a piece of specialized software that handles your candidates. It's basically like a CRM, but for your recruiting needs. So why would you need an ATS? And by the way, we are not in the ATS business, so we're not endorsing any product here. And there are many of them on the market. Some of them are really cheap. Some of them are even free. So take a look. Not endorsing any one of them. So an ATS is essentially a system that keeps your whole process organized, your whole recruitment process. So let's compare it to a CRM, which I'm pretty sure you have at your company. A CRM essentially keeps all the data about your clients, and it not only holds the data about your clients, but it can also help you with the actual marketing and sales process, because you know what was happening with that client, you know everything about like the products that the client was buying, why it churned, and so on and so forth. And the same applies to ATS. So you have a few options. You might not have any system at all and keep everything in your mailbox. And this is pretty terrible, not only because you are not organized, and it's fairly easy to miss a candidate. So essentially you have a candidate that you forgot to send back an email or do something that's really tedious, and that could be very easily automated, and you simply forgot about it, and then you have a lost hire opportunity. So you can have no system at all, which is the worst of it all. You can have a system that's either built in at your company or maybe implemented on top of something that wasn't really suited to handling your recruitment process. So you might have something built in-house. And even if you have capacity, even if you have people like developers who currently have time and can spend some effort developing such a system. So essentially it's a workflow system where you put a candidate in and you are tracking the candidate's progress throughout the recruitment process in some way. But this is not core of your business. I mean, unless you're really a recruiting company. But most of the time, what you're really doing is business for software for banks or for, car companies or whatever. And what you really want to have is a piece of software that will help you with this auxiliary generic problem that pretty much any other company has. So even if you write your own software, then you still have the cost of maintaining that software, and maybe the original developers are already gone. And now you have this custom built in-house ATS system that doesn't integrate with anything. No one knows how it works, and everyone just hates it. So we wouldn't really recommend that. Although it's better than having no system at all. You can also try to use some existing software, like even an Excel sheet or Jira or some, I don't know, database or whatever, like Microsoft Access. And these can somewhat work. However, they lack functionalities, or you still have to build some functionalities on top of them, which is not that easy. And once again, you are re-implementing things that are already available on the market. So unless it's not your core business, you should rather find an ATS system or try to find a cheap one or a free one and just implement it in your company, put it as part of your process. This will greatly improve a lot of your insights at your company. Basically, it adds a lot of visibility to your process, so you can see what's going on with your candidates. And these tools are very suited to showing you what's going on in the recruitment process. And also, it makes the process very repeatable. So you have a very rigid, strict, but also streamlined process of recruitment. You want to add something?
Yeah. So, like, to be honest, all of the companies, seriously, all, like 100% of the companies I used to talk, finally replaced some Excel sheets, Jira, Slack bots, or custom built ADS systems with a proper ADS system. So you can either like start with building your custom one, you can start adopting the I don't know, spreadsheet or something like this. But finally, you will decide that, okay, it makes no sense and we need to use the proper one. So what we are talking about right now, we are talking about the shortcut. So go to proper ADS system from the very, very beginning. Really, like a lot of ADS systems are pretty cheap. A lot of them are even free or have a freemium version. So that's way better than using homemade ADS system. Like basically all homemade systems, if it's not your core business, makes no sense in the long term. But it works as well here. So really, like if there should be one thing that you should do like next day to automate your system, is to basically use an ADS system. And
yes,
as
so
far
you
as
can say that companies either use an ATS system or they will use an ATS system sooner or later.
That's the division. So Tomic, you said about the visibility. So if you could like tell us what can we measure and what kind of visibility we can get from an ATS system.
All right. So once again, it sounds pretty abstract. What's a visibility? But ATS systems, like the one we already mentioned, pretty much all of them have some sort of ways to measure the performance of your recruitment process. And there are a few things that I would really look very closely at when you have a system like that. So number of candidates. But not number in general, but number of candidates at each stage. So we mentioned many times about the recruitment funnel, like similar to a marketing funnel. Basically, it means how many candidates you have at each stage. So how many candidates sent a CV, how many candidates called back when you tried to contact them, how many candidates returned a homework assignment, or how many candidates filled in a form or whatever. So at each stage you have less and less candidates. So you want to monitor that. And I'm not talking about any consequences of these numbers. I'm just talking about the fact that you need to monitor these numbers. Secondly, the so-called conversion rate. So what's the proportion of people that are dropping off at each stage? So let's assume you have 500 candidates at the first stage, where the first stage is sending a CV or filling in some initial form. And then the second stage is candidates who actually contacted us, or candidates who actually scheduled an interview. And the proportion of people between the second stage and the first stage is the conversion rate. I'll talk about that in just a second. And one more important metric, and basically you can live off with just the second and the third one. They are the most important ones here. So the time spent at each stage. So for how long you had to wait for a candidate, or for how long a candidate had to wait for you. Especially the second part is important. So when measuring this time at each stage, you know which parts of your recruitment process are taking too long. Essentially, what are the bottlenecks in terms of the time periods? So let's say it takes too much time to like review the homework, or it takes too much time to screen through CVs or whatever. Then you know exactly where your process is is misbehaving, and these are the places that you should start optimizing first. So the longest stages at your of your recruitment process. So having a metrics is one thing, but how do you actually interpret them? So obviously you want to have as short time spans as possible. So time spent at each stage should be as short as possible, because you are fighting for these candidates. You are truly fighting for the candidates on the market, because the faster another company, the faster you are, the less likely another company will pick this dream candidate you have. But what about the conversion rate, and what about the number of candidates? So at first stage, you want to have as many candidates as virtually possible, because there are chances that within like 100, 1,000, 10,000 candidates, or whatever you have at your process, you will find a single one that's best for the job. The more candidates you have at the beginning, the more likely you will end up with your dream candidate going downstream into the funnel. So this means that you have a lot of people to review at the beginning, and that's why it's so important to automate, at least at the first stages, because these are the places where you have an exponentially high number of people. So talking about conversion rate, it doesn't necessarily mean, well, what is the best conversion rate, you might ask? Should it be big? Should it be small? Well, it sort of depends, but at the very beginning, you actually want it to be high. So you want to have as many candidates as you can get from the market, but then you want to quickly shrink the funnel, make it slimmer, so that less people are going to the later stages of your process. And I think, Kuba, you can agree that the further the process, the further the stage in the process, the more manual work is required, because then there's an actual recruiter who needs to contact. It's what we call the human touch. So you don't have to technically talk to every single candidate at the first stage, but you will definitely want to talk to a candidate somewhere in the middle or at the end of the recruitment funnel, because these are the places where you make decisions. So conversion rate, it's not really bad that you are dropping off 90% of the candidates or 99% of the candidates. It's actually great, because it means you had a lot of possible, let's call it leads, and then you are quickly rejecting them and quickly giving them feedback, so that they do not fit into our company. But this 1% out of a really huge number is still a great proportion to have. So I would say that these three metrics are essential to having like a good overview of your recruitment process. And these are the things that every single ATS will give you for free. Okay, Kuba. So let's talk, unless you want to add something, but let's talk about the first stages. So screening of the candidates. How should we go about that?
So what we know from the ADSs of our customers and the people that are like coming to Devster to resolve their problems is that basically like the more you can do at the very early stage of the recruitment funnel, the better. And why? Because like if you have a pretty good gatekeeper on your recruitment funnel, it means that to the later stages, so the stages that requires the human touch, there are only the candidates, and there are only the candidates who are like valuable entering the stages. So the screening, so just like filtering or gatekeeping the funnel, is crucial approach to improve the efficiency of your recruitment process. So that's why, for example, like being able to get the giant pool of the candidates and automatically verify their quality, that's the great approach. Of course, if you will be able to verify if they're like fit to your team, or if they're communicating great, then it's great to do it as well. However, it's much easier to verify if someone is capable of resolving some business problems using technology. So if someone is like an experienced, I don't know, iPhone or Android developer, then to verify the communication skills, team fit, or something like this, or the culture of the person. So that's why the best thing that you can do to automate your process, not or your funnel, not only your process, is to basically like use the tools to screen the candidates, verify their skills, and then reject all the candidates that are not worth like meeting in face to face. Because if you know that someone is not an experienced developer and this person won't be able to like resolve the business issues or business problems at your company, then like inviting such people or such candidates for like on-site interviews is just basically waste of time, your time and the candidate's time as well. So like start with like advancing only the top performance with the right skills to the next stages of your recruitment funnel. So if you're able to automatically verify the skills, then it's great. Why it's great? Because it allows you to widen your recruitment funnel. If at the very like early stage you can filter out all the candidates that are just wannabe developers or people who like claim they have some skills, but in fact they are not capable of like resolving the problems or implementing the code, then is a problem. If you can filter out these people, so you know that from 100 developers you will choose top 10 best people that you want to interview, then of course it's better to choose top 10 from 1,000 developers than from 11, because top 10 from 11 developers won't be as good fit as top 10 from 1,000 developers. So the wider your recruitment funnel is, the higher quality of the candidates are entering the, let's say, limited phase. And by limited phase, we understand the phase where the human touch is involved. So like screening the candidates, automatic screening is an infinite or unlimited, unbounded stage. You can put 10,000 candidates per month and it will work. And at the same hand, you cannot interview 1,000 developers a month, and probably it even won't make any sense. So like basically adding more candidates to recruitment funnel allow you to cut on a higher bar. So choose like better candidates and this one. And with this full automation, you can remove all the friction points and ask candidates to enter your funnel directly. A lot of our customers and a lot of companies like that even are not using IT recruitment process automation are trying to like expose some kind of a landing pages for the candidates. So here is the landing page of our company. You can apply here, type your email or log in via, I don't know, GitHub or Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, and and we'll contact you. So they are like making the application process as easy as it can be. And especially then you get a higher pool of the candidates, but then you need to be very, very fast in like processing those candidates, because the last thing that you want to achieve is to have like thousands of candidates and then you are not able to do anything because your mailbox is like has blown up and you don't you are not allowed to work on top of that. So compare it to a company that just developed their cool software and 1,000 customers try to use it. The software is unusable and you cannot use it because it's loading so long that people are frustrated and they are like basically like saying, okay, we don't want to do that. And then your employer branding, so something that is crucial for candidate sourcing, hurts because people are saying, I don't like this company. I applied for a job in this company a month ago and I'm still waiting for the response. So do you want to add, Tomic, something to like using machines in this process?
Yeah, so you've mentioned that there should be some sort of a landing page or a place where a candidate is capable of like entering his data on his or her own. And and you also mentioned that this overflows your mailbox because you don't want these candidates to land straight in your mailbox. Let's emphasize that once again. You want to have the first screening stage, the one where a candidate can apply himself or herself. You want it to be automated. You want this stage to be handled for you so that whatever you get in your mailbox is already kind of pre-screened, whatever it means. But this is the exact place where most of the time is spent. But there are many other. There's actually one more thing that's really crucial in terms of using machines rather than people, especially in the very beginning of the process. So people tend to be unfair. People tend to be biased, even unconsciously biased, and I wouldn't say that's okay, but that's the fact of life, and it's really, really hard to overcome this problem. Sometimes you can get a job or you don't get a job simply because you got a recruiter that was similar to you. So it's kind of an anti-pattern in recruitment process that the only people you're looking for are the people who are similar to you. So if you find a recruiter that's similar to you in terms of experience, in terms of like the way he or she looks at life, then you're lucky, you got the job. On the other hand, if you find a recruiter that was basically next one available in the calendar or whatever, it's a pure luck, right? But you get a recruiter that's a different personality. It doesn't mean that it doesn't makes you a worse candidate. It doesn't mean that you're not a good fit for a company. Basically, you were just unlucky. So by using a machine, even though it's kind of soulless, but still it's something. It's a process that's really fair. It's very straightforward. And a machine allows you, first of all, to be really equal in terms of a candidate. So machines aren't biased, at least not in a way people are biased, but also machines allow you to quickly compare in a very straightforward way, compare candidates between each other. So if you have a feedback from one recruiter and when you have a feedback from another recruiter, it's sometimes really hard to compare them because it's words against words, whatever that means in your company. On the other hand, if you have a machine that gave you a very precise, very detailed overview of a candidate, like we're using some verification tests, like using some automated process, some automated assessment, whatever you choose. In this case, at least you know exactly how does one candidate compare to the others, how it stacks up compared to other candidates. And this is one of the greatest features of having a machine that's doing the beginning of the process. So that's great. That's great if you have like some tool that you have some kind of a machine doing the first stage of the verification. However, you have to remember that it's not enough to have just a set of loosely coupled program scripts, whatever that are doing the work. You need to integrate them somehow with each other. That's why we bragged so much about ATSs, because most of the time they do integrate with a lot of other platforms. So they integrate with email, they integrate with like some automatic assessment platforms like ours. They do integrate with calendars. They do integrate with a lot of stuff. Like Slack, for example. Probably you use Slack for communication or Google Meet or whatever in your company. You want to have these tools you want to have these tools like somewhat integrate with each other. And you really don't want to introduce more machinery. You don't want to introduce more tools into your process. Just look what you already have and make sure that you can easily integrate, for example, your mailbox with your ATS, or integrate your assessment platform with your, Slack, whatever. Things that are really easy to automate, like sending tests automatically to your candidate, like accepting and rejecting, so above or below some threshold. This can easily be automated. You don't need a person to see the report and distinguish between a really poor candidate that got 20% versus a great candidate that got 80% out of the test. And one more thing, by integrating these tools, you can track how the candidates are doing at every single stage, because every single tool gives you a slightly different overview of the process. So remember that it's really great to have some sort of automation. Anything to add here, Kuba?
No, I just want to change a little bit our schedule and answer to Dmitro comment. Because of course machines are checking what's easy to check. The question is if it's exactly or it's in fact not important, because you can say that, for example, having a CI/CD tool like Jenkins or Bamboo or something like this is checking what's easy to check and not what's important, but it's totally untrue. The unit tests and the integration tests are checking if in fact someone is able to resolve a particular problem. So whiteboard interview is basically verifying some, I don't know, academic knowledge or some style of thinking. And for example, what's I think pretty unique at Developersker is that at Developersker you get a real test, so real task to resolve. So for example, you get the, I don't know, iPhone application that you can even deploy to your iPhone, open in Xcode and resolve an issue. So you are doing exactly the same that you will be doing on the first day of the new job. So I won't say it's not important. It's the same as algorithmic or whiteboard algorithmic, because it's something totally different. But of course, like human touch, as we highlighted, I think a few times during this webinar, is pretty important. The only thing is that your human touch at every single company that you can imagine is limited. So you want to be sure that people that are entering this stage, when you can really verify what matters. So for example, how the person communicates, how the person thinks about the code, how the person is able to spot some issues, how the person is able to explain the particular solution or something like this. That's the part that is important, but that's what you can verify later on with, for example, online coding interview. We've been doing an online coding interview with Tomic when I was hiring Tomic during the interview, and it's available on our YouTube channel. So feel free to watch it. And just before we'll jump on the rest of the questions, I just want to sum up what's possible and what you can do with an automated approach. And the first thing is that you can focus on feeding more and more candidates into the funnel, because most of the jobs or most of the stuff that are eating 80% of your time were automated. So you're automating the screening process, you are automating the candidate management process, so something that is using most of the time of recruiters and developers. So then the recruiters can focus on sourcing instead of asking or calling the candidates or scheduling a meeting, because Calendly is way better in scheduling meetings than any person you can imagine. So you can reduce the biggest waste that is happening at the screening phase, so at the very, very early stage of your recruitment funnel. And thanks to that, you can really, and that's what I did at, for example, Allegro 8 years ago, and that's what we get also from our customers, that you can close the whole recruitment cycle in less than 7 days. Of course, that's assuming that you are using this agile style, so you are not interviewing 100 candidates just to choose one, but for a single candidate you decide, is it someone who I want to hire? Is it someone that I want to work with? So we are talking about the continuous recruitment. Tomic, do you want to add anything about something more related to developers, so people using IDE than Excel?
Yeah, well, basically, as a developer, I would love to use an IDE rather than an Excel sheet or even an ATS system, which we bragged about so much. So you will need developers at some point sooner or later, because they are the ones who have the expertise to choose the best candidates. But please make sure that you're using developers at the very late stage of the development, the recruitment funnel. Otherwise, I would love to do my quote-unquote real job, which is coding, rather than just going through CVs and essentially wasting my time with candidates who are maybe great, but not for our company. I don't want to say it the other way. So that's one thing. So so make sure that you're using precious developers' time in the most effective manner. And also, which I cannot emphasize enough, is that when a candidate is satisfied with the recruitment process, and we already mentioned a few ways how candidates can be satisfied with it. So the process is fast, the candidates got feedback, the feedback was fast as well, and they had a feeling that it was suited for them. In that case, the candidate, even if he or she is rejected, he or she is more likely to recommend you later on to their colleagues at work, for example. And essentially that is really important, because this means one rejected candidate can bring 10 more leads or 10 more other candidates to your recruitment process, because they know exactly that this process is not their waste of time, and they get a valuable feedback no matter what the result is. So an automation helps a lot here, because it allows both your company to save some resources, and also it gives a much better impression regarding the candidates.
Yeah, so I've added very quickly a slide about, because I agree and disagree with Dmitro, and basically, to be honest, Developersker was born because other tools on the market were not working at all. So I agree with this part, but I don't agree that you can do that. And for example, what's the most important part, for example, about Developersker, just shortly describe the difference and explain why it works while other tools are not. Developersker was invented by developers with developers in mind. So we were focused from the very, very beginning. That's why it took us 3 years to even deliver the platform in the beta version. So we want to let's say reflect the normal process and the normal work of a candidate. So Developersker is very, very aligned with CI/CD environments, and it works exactly as, let's say, the Jenkins. So from Developersker, you get a Git repository that you can clone to your local computer, open in your IDE, because that's how developers are writing the software. You get the full-blown project. I think that Tomic can tell us a little bit more about that. And then you simply git push the solution to the server when the server verifies if the integration tests are working. So for example, for iPhone application, we are basically using Xcode, and we are running the application, deploying it to virtual iPhone machine, and then clicking through the interface to verify if all the tests work. So we hate algorithmic interviews, we hate code challenges, we hate whiteboard interviews, and Developersker is everything but not algorithmic tests, and not some simple puzzles, fizz bus codes, etc. Tomic, can you piggyback on that somehow?
Yeah, so we are really struggling, and we're really making sure, and we have a really strict process of building our tasks to make sure that these are not boring algorithmic things that can be easily checked but don't bring anything to the table regarding the candidate. So what I really enjoy a lot, and that's why I joined the company, is that the programming tasks are so similar to the real programming experience. I get, as Jakub mentioned, Git repository. I'm working with my favorite tools. I have a very similar sense to working with in a real project. And we also have some black box and white box tests that are making sure that your solution actually works. And that's the biggest objective we have here. We want to make sure that you are capable of writing working application that fulfills the requirements, and the requirements are clearly stated. We don't really care whether you covered every possible input and you produce a possible output, as in algorithmic challenges. We want to make sure that you wrote an application that boots, that starts up, that can serve traffic, and that your application, whatever the technology it is, like Jakub mentioned, if you write an iPhone application, it can be deployed on a real phone, and it can actually be used on that phone. If you're developing a server application, you can actually start that application, it serves traffic, it can handle failures, and so on and so forth. So this is very different from what you'll find at a typical coding interview, where it's all about reading a file, reading inputs, and then producing outputs.
Yeah.
A pure function that does some algorithmic stuff. I wouldn't say I hate algorithmic challenges. They are okay.
I hate.
clarify. All right, so we are different here. But the point is, we would like to make sure that you're hiring people who actually have a hands-on experience, and we are verifying hands-on experience rather than just some artificial and superficial knowledge of algorithms.
And to be honest, that's the last slide before jumping to Q&A. Like, due to that approach and thanks to that approach, for example, like, and here we are talking about the real customer. So Criteria is able to like save even 400 days every like annually with Devsker for hiring people. Like Spottis, so the company basically developing Jira and Atlassian products, they replaced an in-house solution with Devsker, and thanks to that, they reduced the interview load almost 10 times. Like Impact Tech is able to like fill more technical roles than before, even if they like cut down the number of interviews almost three times. So as you can see, it works mostly because we totally changed the approach that was like adopted by the market. And I totally don't believe in so simple algorithmic challenges. Okay, so now like jumping on a Q&A, there is like there are two questions. One from Elena, from Jakub, about like do we think that like machines and automation can replace technical interviews, or can like replace human? And I will say totally no. I don't believe and I don't agree that machines can like interchange human in that way. Like we use Devsker during like the recruitment process for two reasons. First is that we want to filter out the candidates. So with very short tests, like 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, we are verifying if the person is able to understand the current code base, because projects at Devsker are not a greenfield project. So it's not like you get an empty project and you need to implement some method, because that's not how developers work. We give an existing project. Sometimes there are pretty big projects for the candidate where the candidate needs to understand how it works, fix some bug, add some feature, etc. So imagine that you're getting a, I don't know, like Jira client, and we are saying, okay, so this Jira client works, it works perfectly, but we want to do implement some features of retrying the I don't know, sending some batch processing or something like this, because it can not work. So then the candidate needs to understand the current code base and understand the tools, or add some libraries that are available in the market that can do that. So we are checking the knowledge of the ecosystem, etc. And that's very short. And then we use Devsker just to automate like the let's say preparing the environment for the candidate, but then we handle the technical interview like remotely, of course, right now due to COVID, with the candidate, working on the candidate IDE. So in Devsker, there is a feature when candidate is just sharing his or her screen, and we are asking, okay, so why did you wrote it that way? Why are you thinking that? Don't you think that this exception here doesn't make sense? Don't you think that this part is risky, or there's something wrong that can happen? And we are verifying like this, how the candidate is talking about his or her solution, how the candidate is, for example, reacting when you disagree with some approach. You say, I don't like this approach. Well, I think it's not valid due to something and something and something, and you can verify how it works. And I really like recommend watching our offline, watching our webinar about online interviews, where we show what's the benefit of handling the face-to-face interview instead of like some automated stuff. Automation is good at the very beginning, but then you need this human touch. And the only thing that we are focusing at Devsker and what we are helping our customers with is to ensure that only valid candidates are reaching your final stage. So if you are hiring only friends or only developers that you know, and you know that they're like worth talking to, then it makes no sense to screen them. They're already screened. You screen them like let's say socially. Otherwise, if you have like 100 applications every month, you cannot know all of the people. So then use automation to just filter out all the poor candidates and ensure that the top 10 or top 20 candidates that enters your recruitment funnel are worth interviewing, and your recruiters, especially developers, won't be frustrated with the candidates because they were poor, and after 5 minutes I already knew that it was a mistake to invite this candidate. Do you want to add anything, Tomek?
No, I already answered at the very beginning. So no, they won't replace the human factor, because after all, you're not only looking for people who are great from the technical perspective, but in the end, you will work with them side by side in the office. You will be doing pair programming. You will be going for a coffee, at least after this working from home thing ends. So you are looking for people who you can kind of relate to in a personal manner, and that's not something you can test using any automation, and we're sure about that.
Yeah, and there were also two questions at the very beginning about how the HR professionals can live or work in hiring or sourcing developers if they are not technical. So there are two things. First is that at Devskiller you can find for free a lot of articles about how to screen, let's say, Java developers, how to screen PHP developers, how to screen Android developers. When I think that in a very simple way, we are explaining what's important, what are the acronyms in the technology, what are the differences, and what are the similarities between different technologies, different parts. And that's something that allows you to be, let's say, technically aware and understand at least the job posting and the candidate resume. And then we have a lot of customers that are not technical, and they use some predefined tests at Devskiller just to filter the candidates. So the HR professionals are able to say to the developers or tech recruiters that these people are valuable and these people are worth interviewing. So basically, you can think about Devskiller is giving some superpowers to HR professionals who are not technical, and Devskiller can say this person is in 90% worth interviewing in Java, or in 72% worth interviewing in React or in Angular or something like this. And you can share the report of the candidate with all the code that was added by the candidate, some very broad static code analysis, so the code quality analysis, so the test results, etc. that you can see, and that really helps from my experience and from my perspective, HR professionals to be able to screen and identify the best talents without the technical knowledge. I don't see any other questions, so if you have any other questions, just post them. And Tomic, do you want to add something to how we can help and how we can support HR professionals?
Looking through the questions, so yeah, I'll just add a little bit about the materials we have on our website. It's not like I'm advertising it so much. I just found them by accident quite some time ago, and they are really, really valuable, even for me as a developer, because they are kind of an extract of knowledge, what kind of versions are now up to date, what kind of technologies, and so on and so forth. So even if you're a developer, it's easy to kind of get a grasp of a new technology or field. So feel free to find them, and also a good screening process will actually help recruiters to get rid of burden of learning a technology, because they can actually screen with a technology that they have no prior experience with, and then they can just move along with fewer candidates.
Okay, so if there are no other questions, so thank you very much. We hope that you enjoyed it. If you're interested in next webinars, I think we'll send you some email where you can opt in for our newsletter. We'll share information about the next webinars or some lives. So you can follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn. And we used to or we are doing some lives just out of the blue on Facebook and LinkedIn. So please follow us if you think that or if you see it valuable. Thank you very much, and yeah, see you next time.
Thanks so much. Thanks for being with us. Bye.